Hello and welcome back to the Guardian Film Show, resuming normal service after a 2-week excursion to the Cannes Film Festival. Naturally, we hope that this enforced leave of absence was just a minor inconvenience, as opposed to, say, a full-blown disaster involving tidal waves, toppling buildings, and Dwayne Johnson aboard a rescue helicopter. But wait, already we risk getting ahead of ourselves. Coming up on this week's show, the footloose youth of rural England are hunting for the exit door in the pungent coming-of-age drama, The Goob.
Who's the champion?
And the gun-toting extremists sweep across northern Mali in Abderrahmane Sissako's Oscar-nominated drama, Timbuktu. But we begin with a good old-fashioned disaster movie in which the west coast of America is slapped by the mother of all earthquakes, and Paul Giamatti's Caltech professor barely has time to say, "Everybody take cover!" This is San Andreas.
Everybody get off the dam! Oh, now!
Wave goodbye to the Hoover Dam, the Hollywood sign, and the tallest building on the San Francisco skyline. California is toast and millions are dead. But Dwayne Johnson's mountainous rescue pilot only wants to find out what's happened to his daughter.
Natalie, don't you worry, I'm gonna get you out of here!
Hey, we are in the red! We are going to crash!
Natalie, we are going now!
Back on the couch after attending the 2-week yacht party of the soul, otherwise known as the Cannes Film Festival, it's Peter Bradshaw and Catherine Shaw. Peter, San Andreas, big full-blown disaster movie, whole city's totaled.
Yes.
Where's the fault?
I love what you did there. There isn't really a fault as far as I'm concerned. I quite enjoyed this. This is a kind of old-fashioned disaster movie. It reminded me, in a way, of 1974's Earthquake with Charlton Heston. I did quite enjoy it, I must say. It's very silly. It's not exactly a feminist movie. I mean, there's been much talk recently of Mad Max's alleged feminist slant. There's nothing of the sort here. This is a guy who saves his daughter, and his ex-wife comes back on board. That's what it's about.
His daughter is a kind of plucky thing, though,
She's
isn't she?
plucky, yes. She sort of is, but it's her job to be rescued, basically. She sort of rescues herself, but she's also rescued by this cute British guy, which is interesting.
That was your point of identification.
Yeah, I very much my role in the movie. That and Dwayne. The other thing that's interesting is that traditionally in a movie like this, there would be a figure like Paul Giamatti as the expert whose warnings are not being heeded by a corrupt or incompetent authority figure. Authority is not really questioned in this movie in the way that it might be back in the 70s.
You've got the slightly dodgy capitalist real estate tycoon there, haven't
Yes,
you?
you have, but his corruption and his cowardice makes absolutely no difference to the event itself. And that, I think, is an interesting difference, because the 70s, I think, would have paid much more lip service. Just generally, from Jaws to Earthquake, everybody would have shown you an authority figure who wasn't doing the business, whereas there's nothing of that sort here, rightly or wrongly. But I have to admit, I did quite enjoy it.
Catherine, was it a good antidote to all the madness of Cannes?
Yeah, no, I loved it. I absolutely loved watching it. And I think Peter's right, it's quite distinctly different. Another difference, perhaps, is that in those 70s movies, lots of people would die. They would be picked off one by one.
Yeah, and you'd guess which one from the cast list was going to be the first to go.
Exactly. Yeah. But this, they don't, it's sort of the body count, although it's the collateral damage is quite high. Yeah. The key
They're off
cast
camera.
are,
It's just the
really,
cattle getting killed off camera.
We're not high enough. Get down! Get down! Take cover! Hold on tight, Ollie!
The thing about Dwayne is that he says, there's one line where he says, you've just got to stand up against something sturdy. And that's like him.
Yeah, just him, basically.
Sturdy,
colossal kind
He's
of
a
thing.
kind of reassuring, affable presence in these things, though, isn't he? And I think affability is an underrated quality in the Hollywood blockbuster.
But it's on the rise. I mean, in Fast and Furious, they're all very affable and family men, aren't they? As he is here as well. But he's quite dialed down in it. He's quite understated, which is good because you've got Paul Giamatti's enormously Hammy Richter scale performance.
It will be so big that even though it's happening here in California, you will feel it on the East Coast.
I loved how, for a scientist, he uses very incendiary language. He says, it's going to spawn a tsunami.
Yeah.
Really,
So we're all screwed.
Yeah. Run! God be with you.
All right, hold on. We gotta get over it before it crashes.
The wrath of Almighty Hollywood claims Almighty Hollywood in San Andreas. Time now to dial down the volume and relocate to the flatlands of East Anglia, where the storms come in teacups and the tidal waves are all in the heart. This is the setting for the Goob. The Goob is out of school and in the world, his whole life ahead of him and the horizon stretching as far as the eye can see. But his mum's boyfriend's a louse and the invisible walls have started closing in. Catherine, I'm a big fan of sort of British social realist films that kind of show us the England outside the M25, but I still felt that the Goob treads quite familiar territory at times.
It does, although I think the location is unfamiliar and is interesting. It's not the sort of glamorous Norfolk coast, or I liked all that. I like the sort of cafes with the fry-ups and the fens that are a bit like the Wild West. And I kind of imagine your chart as a bit like this.
It was a bit.
Really?
There's a bit few more hills, but just as many burger joints and ennui.
Yeah, so maybe you don't like it. It's too familiar for
Too
you.
familiar,
it feels
yeah.
well
It's like going home.
It's like a documentary.
I escaped all that. And look at me now.
But I thought it was good, and Sean Harris, who's everywhere now, is really good in it. And yeah, I was sort of pleasantly surprised by it. I thought I wouldn't like, because I'm a bit agnostic even about things like Selfish Giant. So this should have been, I should have been allergic to this, but actually I really got on with it.
It's sort of in that kind of Andrea Arnold mode, though, isn't it? Some sort of familiar tropes in terms of...
There are some familiar tropes, and that was why I had some reservations. When I first saw it, it was at the Venice Film Festival last year. But actually, on second viewing, it really has kind of grown in my mind.
Yeah.
I think it looks so good.
It does.
And it inhabits its own sense of place with such
Simon
confidence.
Tyndall,
Simon
the
Tyndall is the
cinematographer.
cinematographer. It's a first-time feature filmmaker, Guy Myhill. Very well acted by Sean Harris and Sienna Giri. Really good stuff, I thought. It's in that kind of post-Lochian, slightly apolitical social realism where nobody wants to change the law particularly about everything, but it's more about getting inside marginalised people and marginalised communities. And I must say, I felt that it looked so good and it was so confident and so absorbing that I must say I liked it more the second time around. It's an impressive piece of work, I think. Is
there a problem, though, that you're basically dealing with a character, or with characters perhaps who are kind of spinning in circles, that the film itself starts spinning in circles a bit?
Yeah, I think that's true. But then you go to sort of areas like the Hugh Peninsula in Kent, where people are just like this, and that's the whole point: is that they're just spinning in circles. There isn't any sort of narrative really, and I sort of really like that. I mean, I think where these other films sort of paint this portrait of place and then insert great tragedy in there, it feels a bit discordant. I quite like the fact it just booted.
You weren't pining for Dwayne Johnson to come in and put it all right?
Always. That would have been great.
Guy Myhill's The Goob, showing us pinched lives in England's wide open spaces. And now let's head off to Timbuktu, our fabulous final destination, way down in Africa. And yet, in keeping with the theme of this week's show, there's trouble there too. Malian filmmaker Abderrahmane Sissako rustles up a heartfelt lament for his homeland with Timbuktu, in which the terrain is overrun by extremist interlopers. Music and games are forbidden, the jihadis merrily wave their guns inside the local mosque, and not even the cow at the oasis is safe from harm.
Ama ka bolo tigɛ de fɛ fila filɛ nin a y'a tigɛ ndenmuso e ka sabali an na kun tɛ bolo tigɛ mais i bɛ gando ou bien an bɛ taa ni ye n'i y'a mɛn i bɛ gando bolo de b'i la ndenmuso e ka sabali bani dɔ kɛra sa ne ba mɔgɔ ni ninnu tɛ kɛlɛ ɲɔgɔn ma e ka sabali an tɔɔrɔ la u nana yan k'a fɔ k'an ka kunnabiri an ye kunnabiri don sisan tuguni ko gan mɔgɔ bɛ se ka gando cogo di ka baara kɛ a ka gɛlɛn e ka sabali ne kɔni t'a dɔn ne kɔni tɛ gando bi n t'a dɔn sini n t'a dɔn mɔgɔ ni ninnu tɛ kɛlɛ ɲɔgɔn ma e ka sabali o tuma na i taa ni ye ni min bɛ kɛ o ka kɛ o ka taa sabali o ka taa ni ye ɔ i bɛ nin dun k'a ma.
Peter, this screened at Cannes in 2014. It's taken us a whole year to reach us, and in that time we've seen like the rise of ISIS and the threat to cities like Palmyra, which I guess gives this film a kind of horrible, fresh urgency.
It certainly does. It certainly does. It's been a long wait for this film. It's worth waiting for, and as you say, it actually, so far from having gone out of sort of fashion, it has something to say about the aggression and the Philistinism of ISIS. I really think it's now more pertinent than ever. I really, really like this film. I think it's my favourite of Sissako's films. I've always enjoyed and admired, in a way, the gentle quietism of his movies. But now there is something really at stake, I think, and so it's stepped up a gear. And Sissako is really saying something about what he sees as the despoiling and the destruction of his own homeland, Mali, by the jihadism. His contention is that there's a liberal, humane and tolerant tradition of Islam, which, as it happens, did exist in Mali, and which is being trampled. And what I think is very impressive about the film is that Sissako is not just showing outrage and shock and horror, but something else. He's trying to get inside everyone's mind, and even inside the aggressor's minds as well. And so,
because they're kind of buffoonish as well. They're not just pure evil.
Yes.
They're kind of
some of them are
misguided.
Evil. They're misguided. They are functionaries. They are shabby and mediocre. Some of them. They clamp down on football, while themselves, of course, being obsessed with it. They clamp down on the idea of Western consumer goods, while, of course, being obsessed with cars and of course, weapons and video cameras. And so he exposes their hypocrisy and their absurdity. And there's a kind of almost like an anti-Soviet satire, in a way, of the idea of the guys having to play pretend football. They mime a football match, and there's a lot of sly fun to be had in it. I think Sissako brings to the movie an enormous kind of authority, a sort of moral authority, which is lightly worn in a way. He could have really let us have it from the soapbox, but actually it's so lightly worn. There's something kind of compelling about the film, actually. It's such a lovely film.
It's compelling, but it's sort of confounding too, because there's a rage and a fury to the film, but his style is quite humanistic and gentle almost, isn't it?
Yeah, it's sort of very calm and very grave, and I think that's again why it works. That's why his style is suited to this, because there's a lot of movies about at the moment which sort of have a high blood pressure about their feelings about fundamentalism and immigration and so on. Whereas this is sort of so calm that it can't help but affect you more, and it doesn't campaign, it just shows, and that's very, very powerful actually, and very memorable.
The excellent Timbuktu threatening to end this show on a note of tragedy and ruin, but in a desperate bid to counteract that, we're going to take a few of your questions. First one, do you think the crime genre is dead or dying? And if not, what's a good recent example?
The last crime movie I really enjoyed as a crime movie was the French movie with Vincent Cassel, Mérine or Mézarine.
Oh, yeah.
And I really enjoyed that because it was, and perhaps tellingly, it was a period piece. It was sort of 70s and 80s.
And perhaps tellingly, it was also in 2 parts.
Yeah.
Because I'm wondering whether the crime genre has now been taken over by TV shows like The Bridge and True Detective and Broadchurch. Catherine, what do you reckon?
Yeah, no, I would echo your point about things like True Detective entirely changing the game, and it's certainly very ill.
And the next one is best and worst. What are your favourites and your bugbear movie franchises?
Oh my God! I mean, franchises. Everything is a franchise now. We come to the thing where you think that anything is potentially sort of something one, a franchise. The franchise in my heart of hearts that I've enjoyed recently is Iron Man. I have to say, Iron Man, especially Shane Black's scripts for it, Iron Man 3, I thought was really, really funny and good. I probably enjoyed that perhaps a little bit more than another, which is Avengers and Avengers Assemble, which again, we're talking about real popcorn stuff.
I really like True Detective, so why don't I like the idea of films being in bits like this? I just really don't. And I think it is something, because I used to love Back to the Future, and that sort of, and I still do, but I think there's something childish about the idea of a franchise. Not just the brand association, you have to be familiar with something, you have to know that you don't hate broccoli in order to be able to cope with it. But it's just generally, I just increasingly find myself upset by the idea of them. And I hate the Marvel things. I increasingly hate them. I just can't. And
You pronounce it Marvel, like
Yeah,
Andrew
it's not
Marvel.
like-
Andrew
it's not
Marvel.
like-
Yeah, I pronounce it.
I'm just trying to class it up.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not how you say it.
It's Marvel, isn't it?
I always say Marvel.
But potato, potato.
What about
You
you?
like, but we both like the Before Sunrise movies.
yeah.
And
Yeah,
those,
okay,
that's
so that's
kind
a
of a
classy-
franchise.
That's a classy franchise.
I guess so.
That's
yeah.
a classy franchise.
Yeah, good call.
What I don't like is the Harry Potter franchise. I don't like it. It's like being ridden around in a stretch limo that smells of air freshener and it's all soulless.
Yeah.
Okay, having blithely insulted millions and millions of film fans, it's probably best that we take our leave, duck for cover, and perhaps take shelter, as Paul Giamatti said, beneath the table. My thanks to Peter and to Catherine. Thanks to you for sticking with us. Keep sticking. We're back next week.
I'm a journalist. I'm covering the elections for Newsweek magazine.
Gael Garcia Bernal is Mazia Bahari, a London-based Iranian journalist who falls foul of the Ahmadinejad regime during the disputed election of 2009. And Kim Bodnia is Rosewater, the state interrogator, determined to arrive at his own twist on the truth.